In that time, our world has taken so many steps in the wrong direction. In the negative utopia, science, technology, social organization, dehumanization. In the negative utopia, science, technology, social organization. Technology, social organization, dehumanization. Technology, social organization.
Whoa. Perfect for starting the show about the Davos Satanic Occult Agenda. This was Medioeval by Vincenzo Viceversa. This is our official opening tune, and of course it's based a lot on what happens in Davos, so it's perfect. I guess today
really nice.
for today's show is perfect. First of all, let's thank our sponsors, and welcome to the Leo Zagami Show with Leo and Christy.
We're here again.
Here we are.
So I got my names here, and this week our sponsors are Bruce Kodish, Malgorizada Minta, Paul Tenoso, and Andrea Martin. Thank you so much for sponsoring this show.
Thank you so much. You know who you are, and of course, you can also donate in anonymity. How you say in English? Anonymously, if you want. But you can also have your name mentioned during the show. And it's thanks to you that we were able to broadcast every week here on YouTube and later on band.video, where we have gathered last week over 25,000 views.
I don't
think.
know. I don't go over there and look.
They seem to always
I
have.
don't like women over there.
The comments are a bit.
Well, I don't go there anymore.
You should be a little more gentleman, Info Warriors.
They're not.
Well, here we go, because we have really a table full of news, a lot of news, of course, especially coming from Davos. We don't have any guests today because we want to really focus the whole show on a topic which I have touched both in Volume 7, as you know, with a book which is actually entitled From the Occult Roots of the Great Reset to the Populist Roots of the Great Reject. And this year there was a lot of great reject, even amongst the participants in Davos. There was a big change, a big shift. This is, of course, Volume 9, in which there is more about Klaus Schwab eats the bugs, while he promotes eats the bugs for the rest of the world. He instead is having lavish dinners. Escort services have basically been fully booked. So these people, ethically and morally, it's so wrong, everything that comes out of there, and especially when you receive the papal blessings on all this. I mean, what kind of people are they? Now let's see.
Bergoglio is not my pope.
Pope Bergoglio is not your pope. That is another thing. In Sulmona, in the Abruzzo region, a group of people in the middle of the night filled the whole city with a poster saying Bergoglio, Pope Francis, is not our Pope. So, I mean, there is some hope, of course, for those Catholics who still want to continue with their own religion, but not in communion with the Pope, who, of course, is the Antichrist. I mean, we had this week, Pope Francis called for peace and authentic development. They publish it on the official WEF, World Economic Forum website. Let's go and check it out. Here we go. The internet seems to be a little bit.
It's raining here.
It's
guys.
raining
it's
here.
Bad weather.
Yes, bad weather. So forgive us if the connection is not 100%. Davos 24 says Pope Francis called for peace and authentic development, and this was posted 2 days ago by their own Pope Francis.
I like the way you say development. Development.
But what do you think about this great hypocrisy? You know, the Pope sending his blessings, and then you have, even Vatican News talking about the message to Davos, and then these people basically have booked a bunch of escorts, and they're having parties filled with cocaine and other drugs. I mean, these people are really the
I think
most.
they're all a bunch of crooks, all of them, all mixed together in a big bunch of crookery and criminal done.
Very criminal. But let me show to those people that are watching us this news they might not know about. So Sulmona is a great, I'm very.
Is that where
Not is there, but of course
he probably did it.
No, don't say that.
Sorry.
Because of course now the police is investigating. There is let's say a lot of people who are my supporters in those areas, especially in Sulmona, which is a great city, a city I used to play a lot as a DJ when I was young. I have a lot of friends. The fact that they have put these posters all over the town, like I said, gives us some hope. There is people, but who put these posters? So let's talk also about who put these posters. Now, I talked about Don Minutella in the Italian edition, the last Italian edition of Pope Francis, the last Pope. And Don Minutella is this renegade priest that has basically this small schismatic group called I think it's like the Piccolo Resto. It's a small movement. It's called Piccolo Resto Cattolico, and this schismatic movement conducted, driven by this former Catholic priest who is no longer in communion with Bergoglio and with the Vatican, because he has fought them, he has opposed them for a long time. And apparently there is his organization behind this thing, which I don't know. I mean, it's of course going to be investigated by the authorities, but we are glad that some people are saying the truth about this Antichrist. Even Carlo Maria Vigano has talked about the incoherence, about a pope that gives the blessing for another Pachamama event. Because one of the things that really struck this week during this Davos event that takes place, as you all know, in Switzerland, was the presence of not only politicians, businessmen, and so on, but also a shaman, a woman shaman that went around Davos, and you can see, I mean, they are talking about disease X. Well, I think they are about to spread the disease X, because this is what...
no Cambarro Anuri, no Camai, no Camwaka, na Anuri, no Yuyuá, na Warron Chinambo, Panque, Tu Chinam Chavawaki, Chinamo Kikirani, Tsai Chavakirani, Tsai Makikirani.
I mean, these were the people who were talking about not spreading diseases, and here they're coughing all over the place. She came from the Amazons jungle to spread the new disease. I don't know. I mean, it's just...
Look, she's going to blow it on them. Isn't that great?
Among the great hypocrisy of this week, we also saw, of course, John Kerry, a Skull and Bones member. I dedicated, by the way, an article to this whole thing. You can go and check this article on leozagami.com. leozagami.com. It's constantly updated with the latest articles. Thank you for tuning in. Of course, for those people who are watching us live, as you know, we had several channels that were removed from YouTube, so we don't.
And we're off of Facebook now.
Yes, because
they banned us.
They banned us also from Facebook.
So there's a lot of people that used to tune in on Facebook, yes, and they're not here anymore.
That's a little bit.
I don't understand. They just don't go on YouTube.
They simply don't go on YouTube.
But you have it posted there on your Facebook
and
YouTube.
I know.
I don't know. They just don't like it enough to go look for it. So that's okay.
I hope that sooner or later we will be allowed again. I don't know, but in the meantime, Mark Zuckerberg, of course, is an enemy of truth. That's for sure. Check out. Also, I will put it on the screen. This is the detail, the GoFundMe to sponsor us. And we can receive donations also if you are in Great Britain or in the United States through Cash App, which you can find the details of my Cash App account on leozagami.com.
And I just want to say that the very best way for you to support us is to buy Leo's books.
Yes, and of course here we're talking about...
that's one way to sponsor the show, and it's actually the best way because we prefer you to buy the books. We don't really want the donations, but we need them to run this show, but we prefer that you buy the books. So buy the books, guys. Get smarter. Learn everything that you need to know in the end times, because you're going to need everything in these books. Every single word.
We are part of a great reject. And this was the great message that, I published at the beginning of 2022 in this prophetic book that talked about the war that still had to even start with Ukraine. And of course, it was already developing for a number of years, but then fully developed after the publication of this book, which already talked to you about what will happen in the Taiwan and everything that will happen in the next few years up to that crucial year, which is 2030. So today I would like for Christy to at least read some passages from this book that in a way is...
I thought my reading days were over when the occult series ended.
No, we brought you back for more reading. Of course, the interesting thing about this book, on the contrary of other books based on the same subject, The Great Reset and Klaus Schwab, this actually brings you into the occult side of the Great Reset, the occult connections. Like somebody recently asked me, is there any connection between the Fraternitas Saturni in Germany and Klaus Schwab because of the vampiric nature? And I said, well, actually, yes, the Fraternitas Saturni had a representative which was connected to the World League of the Illuminati, this Metzger guy, and so there was a connection later on established with Klaus Schwab. So if you want to know more about it, of course, you have to get this book, which talks about a lot also about, of course, all the topics that regard the World Economic Forum. And it talks also about other topics like the psyop that led people to that trap, which was the 6th of January 2021, which we have talked about a lot. Now, I want you to read this paragraph here regarding Klaus Schwab and the very first meeting which took place 54 years ago in 1970 and was opened by a representative of the aristocracy called Otto von Augsburg. So, here.
Otto von Augsburg. Okay. For this very reason, Klaus Schwab chose to deliver the keynote speech at the opening session of this historical event. None other than Illuminati kingpin and Jesuit agent Otto von Augsburg, head of the House of Habsburg-Lorraine and sovereign of the Order of the Golden Fleece, historically linked to Adam Weishaupt's Order of the Illuminati, who was the last crown prince of Austria-Hungary from 1916 until the dissolution of the empire.
Otto von Habsburg was, so you don't confuse it with Adam Weishaupt. Yes,
okay. Until the dissolution of the empire in April 1919. The late Otto von Habsburg was also co-founder of the Pan-European Union, PEU, headed by Freemason Count Coudenhove Kalergi. Ooh, that guy, the infamous Austrian politician and philosopher who pioneered this fake European integration as the secret head of a synarchist group whose aim was to create a united Europe. This creation of a united Europe was central to the vision of how do you say that? It's French.
Saint-Yves d'Alvidre.
Oh, thank you. The founder of Synarchism, a call for which appears on the first page of his first book on Synarchy, Keys of the East.
Which is basically another product of the Sabbatean Frankism in a way, and also, of course, of what that black aristocracy was mingling in with contacts that, of course, in the end produced the church of today, the Catholic Church of today, of Pope Francis, that gives his blessing to these people with their shamans, with their twisted meetings that really, this year, their theme was to reconcile themselves with let's say, with the rest of the world, because everybody hates them. So they wanted to, in a way,
reconcile. Be friends?
Yeah, they play. So, but what happened?
We don't want to be friends with Klaus. We don't like him.
We don't like Klaus. Klaus, of course, talked about collectivism, which is basically socialism and all that. And then, though, he had people for the first time that really openly opposed him and what he was doing. And so we need to check out, first of all, the words of the president of a conservative think tank like the Heritage Foundation, which I think makes us understand that this year things were a little bit different. President of a conservative think tank, the Heritage Foundation, attacked the globalists he actually had in front of him. He was interviewed by this libtard that introduces him. And then you will see how he really defends Donald J. Trump and what Donald J. Trump stands for. Because you have to understand, another important thing about the Davos Satanic Occult Agenda was that this year there was, of course, the presence of the heir of George Soros, Alex Soros. Alex Soros, very close to Barack Hussein Obama and Michelle, is trying in every way possible to get people some way sabotage Trump. We will talk more about what he stated. In the end, he had to admit that Trump will not go away if he's not arrested. That was even...
He won't even go away if he's arrested.
In fact, I think that was wishful thinking on
he's
the
resilient.
He's resilient. But let's see what Kevin Roberts said.
Because I said it's quite good in the way that Jerry set it up. What did the president, what do you think, a President Trump, he's the president from being the former president, but if there were a new President Trump, what does he mean by retribution? What is the issue, calling out very specifically a former Attorney General and former Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and so on? I mean, it sounds very personal. And you said yourself a minute ago, anyone who's kind of not with the program is not going to be in an administration. One thing that Davos, you might say, and the people come here stand up for is liberal democracy. So if the idea that's going to be swept under the table is part of the idea, hopefully that's not what he means. What do you mean? What do you think he means by retribution?
Well, it's laughable that you would, or anyone would describe Davos as protecting liberal democracy. It's equally,
standing up for it.
It's equally laughable to use the word dictatorship at Davos and aim that at President Trump. In fact, I think that's absurd. But I'm going to step aside from that constructive criticism and instead answer your question.
Yep.
And I'm going to be substantive here. President Trump, if he's the next president, for that matter, I think whoever the next conservative president is going to take on the power of the elites, which I mentioned earlier. But the thing that I want to drive home here, the very reason that I'm here at Davos, is to explain to many people in this room and who are watching, with all due respect, nothing personal, but that you're part of the problem. Political elites tell the average people on 3 or 4 or 5 issues that the reality is X, when in fact reality is Y. Take immigration. Elites tell us that open borders and even illegal immigration are okay. The average person tells us in the United States that both rob them of the American way of life. They're right. President Trump will take that on behalf of the average American. Elites also tell us that public safety isn't a problem in big American cities. Just travel to New York or Washington or Dallas, Texas. The average person will tell you that the lack of public safety damages not just the American way of life, but their life. President Trump will take that on. Thirdly, I guess the favorite at the World Economic Forum is climate change. Elites tell us that we have this existential crisis with so-called climate change, so much so that climate alarmism is probably the greatest cause for mental health crisis in the world. The solutions, the average person know, based on climate change are far worse and more harmful and cost more human lives, especially in Europe during the time that you need heating, than do the problem and the problems themselves. Fourth, 2 more here, Robin. Okay. The fourth, China. The number one adversary, not just to the United States, but to free people on planet Earth. Not only do we at Davos not say that, we give the Chinese Communist Party a platform. Count on President Trump ending that nonsense. And fifth, as we sit here, another supranational organization, the World Health Organization, is discussing foisting gender ideology upon the global South. These are practices that are under review, if not being rejected, by countries in Northern Europe. The new president, especially if it's President Trump, will, as you like to say, trust the science. He will understand the basic biological reality of manhood and womanhood. And do you know why? Not because of retribution, not because he's a dictator, but because he has the power of the American people behind him. And it's connected to Senator Portman's excellent point that in addition to needing a vigorous executive, we look forward to having the popular will inform both the House and Senate in 2025 to pass laws on all of those issues and many others. Ultimately, Robin, I think President Trump, if in fact he wins a second term, is going to be inspired by the wise words of Javier Milei, who said that he was in power not to guide sheep, but to awaken lions. That's what the average American and the average free person on planet Earth wants out of leaders.
Very clear points, and that'll give a chance for everyone to come back, including on the Q&A and any particular issues they want to challenge. The one thing I will challenge, we can come back to it later on, Kevin, is what will be the mandate of the American people if the mandate tends to be not a plurality of the vote.
If he
and is a
wins the
50-50
election, the
country.
mandate's clear.
Kevin keeps saying if he wins the election. Can I ask Kevin, is there any conceivable way in which if he loses the election, he will accept that he's lost the election, or whether you would accept that?
What was the last part?
Would you accept if he loses the election that he's lost the election, or would it be like last time?
If we're sure that there's election integrity, but I'm not sure that we can be.
I don't think you've answered my question there.
We're not going to get to the end of that one, so park that one for the moment. I want to first bring in Rob.
These people, obviously, some say we want to use and maybe abuse once again an hypothetical disease to lock everybody in and then give birth to another fraudulent election. Well, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. I know
we the people are not going to let it happen. So there you go.
It's more easy though that they will probably manifest a third world war because that's what is unfortunately happening. Now, I've been talking about all these subjects here in volume 9 of my confessions, which I strongly recommend you read. And it's, of course, also another way to support our show. Now, these books are not simply books that I'm promoting here because these are books that you need. You need because the information that you gather from these books, you're not going to find elsewhere. Simple as that. Nope. The documents that you find in these books, will find elsewhere. So give it a try, and then you can eventually criticize me. There is people who just openly criticize me because maybe they can't stand my accent, the fact that I'm not American in the strictest sense. Listen, my friends, I am here in America legally, and I made this really the point here. Getting to become American legally rather than all these millions of people that since I'm here in 2019 have gone in front of me and are already American. You see, I am still here waiting to get my citizenship. In the meantime, these people are granted a lot of things. Medicare, this, that, and all the other. They are given, they give at times even things that they will not give to me, to illegal immigrants. So, it's obviously very wrong. But aside from that, I think that the work that we are conducting here at the Leo Zagami Show this year with Christy and me, we have explored the Illuminati during the whole course of 2023 with a whole series that you can still find on YouTube, part of it also on Band.video. And now we will continue with the news, and every now and then we will explore again the occult side of the Illuminati because that's something we like to do. But my interpretation, my analysis comes from my past experiences. That's why I used to be a staple of Alex Jones' show up until not so long ago. But now it's becoming a little bit weird, the situation, because nobody wants to really listen to the entire truth of this Sabbatean Frankist Jesuit takeover. There is a scenario which is conquered by the Dividi et Impera, in which everybody is criticizing everybody else and thinking they know the ultimate truth. Well, let me tell you guys, also regarding, for example, what happened in the last few days with Davos, things are changing. And obviously, that's what made Alex Soros so panicked about things. Did you see the articles? Like, for example, I'm going to show an article here from CNBC that tells us Alex Soros says a Trump win is a done deal for the Davos elite, but they're always wrong. Well, if they're always wrong, then that will also include his father, who used to be always part of the Davos elite from the very beginning. Yeah. So Davos 2024, most people there, the CEOs, know that the Trump victory is good for business rather than Biden, rather than the Democrats who have not only destroyed the American way of life, but have destroyed entire companies who have gone woke, and obviously they've gone broke because that's what happens. Let me show you what the CEO the CEO of a very important company, which is JP Morgan, who used to be a Democratic donor, said about Trump and MAGA on CNBC. I mean, it's kind of unprecedented. Check it out. Of course, this is a live panel conducted from Davos in Switzerland during this historic, I would say, Davos gathering. Historic because this is the first time I sense the fear really in the eyes of the elite.
Well,
I think it's a mistake to assume that everything's hunky-dory. And, you know, and when stock markets are up, it's kind of like this little drug we all feel. Like, it's just great, you know. But remember, we've had so much fiscal and monetary stimulation. So I'm a little more on the cautious side, that we are facing a lot of things in 24 or 25. And we mentioned Ukraine, the terrorist activity in Israel, the Red Sea, quantitative tightening, which I still question if we understand exactly how that works. I don't think we do. How QE actually worked, what the effect of negative, you know, zero rates was for all this time, and obviously the politics, and you know, and then the Ukrainian war is affecting oil, gas, food, migration. So you have all these very powerful forces that are going to be affecting us in 24 and 25. So if I was the government, I would be preparing for what I'm going to do about that, assuming things aren't good. And I just also want to point out, I wish the Democrats would think a little more carefully when they talk about MAGA. You know, and if you travel this country, you know, and the country's unbelievable. We took our bus trip this year, and Leslie Picker was on Spokane and Boise and Bozeman. People are growing. They're hungry to grow. They're innovating. It's everywhere. It's not just Silicon Valley. So
now, this is important because it's like these people are really not connected with Middle America. They don't really know what happens. They only know New York, Los Angeles, their own lipped-up cities. And it's kind of a moment of reckoning what the CEO of JP Morgan had in his bus travel to Boise, Idaho, other places.
we've got this great hand, but when people say MAGA, they're actually looking at people voting for Trump, and they think they're voting, and they're basically scapegoating them, that you are like him. But I don't think they're voting for Trump because of his family values. And if you look, just take a step back, be honest. He was kind of right about NATO.
So now, this is quite incredible. He's going to actually say that he's right about a series of things. No. Check it out.
Kind of right about immigration. Mm-hmm. He grew the economy quite well.
China virus.
Tax reform worked. Mm-hmm. He was right about some of China. I don't like what he did.
No, I said China virus.
Yeah, I understand. He may have been right. And I don't like how he said things about Mexico. I don't like, but he wasn't wrong about some of these critical issues, and that's why they're voting for him. And I think people should be a little more respectful of our fellow citizens. And when you guys have people up
also, here, that is good because here, I mean, this is important. We had a current president who insults MAGA saying they're all Nazis. We have a vice president who goes on the View and says that all the people who follow MAGA are crazies. At least this guy had the sensitivity, and actually he's gonna get embraced, surprisingly, by the panel, including the anchorman of CNBC, who is on the left. Listen.
You should always ask the why. Not like it's a binary thing. You're supporting Trump, you're not supporting Trump. Why are you supporting Trump?
It's hard to hate 75 million of your fellow Americans. And
I agree.
It's done crazy.
And, you know, the Democrats have done a pretty good job with the deplorables, hugging onto their Bibles and their beer and their guns. I mean, really? Like, could we just stop that stuff and actually grow up and treat other people with respect?
I didn't think I could ever say that JP Morgan CEO will actually say something correct and enlighten my day with his words.
God, stop calling us names.
Yeah.
And I do think the economy will affect, and I think this negative talk about MAGA is going to hurt Biden's election campaign.
I just want to ask you back to the 34 trillion that we got, because it seemed like when rates were going up and we thought the Fed was going to keep going higher for longer, it looked like some of that was coming home to roost because the auctions weren't going well. It's like, wow, debt service is much more expensive. This is going to hurt. Suddenly the pat answer is, wow, we're already through that. Rates are coming down again. So the 34 trillion suddenly is okay again. And I don't think it works that way.
Yeah, I think people are making a mistake. I think it is going to come to bite. You know, that could be in 3 years or 5 years or 7 years. I think it may very well bite in the markets way before that, because the market makers don't have because of regulations, don't have the capability to make markets like you used to. So we can easily handle it, but we're restricted by all these rules. And you're absolutely correct. If my numbers are right, in 1980, debt to GDP was 35%. We spent 5% of the deficit because of recession. Now debt to GDP is 100%. The deficit's 6%, and it's in a boom time. And of course, it feels pretty good because we spend all that money. It seems to be working. I think governments are starting to feel omnipotent, and central banks. I'd be much more cautious about that.
Well, I mean, it was kind of surprising to have this panel going on in Davos on CNBC, which is, of course, and let me straighten up here because some people might think that we have the Vatican.
Cricket.
It's not. It's the camera and the grand
It's a little
angle.
bit cricket, though.
No, well, it's not.
No, but the Vatican is.
The Vatican is
joking.
okay. Okay. So here we are in Davos with a lot of people who are openly saying that Trump will be the president. And this of course, doesn't go along well with Alex Soros and George Soros. And that's why we have then a lot of articles that came out in the last couple of days about what Alex Soros has said. I mean, the son of George Soros says Trump won't disappear if he doesn't end up in prison. But also, there is a lot in this article. If I manage to show you some of what it says, that seems interesting. Donald Trump owns the Republican Party. We're in something I like to call the Trump cycle, because I think even if, and I believe if the institutions hold, when he loses this election, he also be the Republican candidate in 2028 and maybe even 2032 as well, Alex Soros said. I mean, so this, what do you think of what, are they scared? Because Alex Soros is the main backer of Barack Hussein Obama and the current Biden administration. He has been a guy who has visited the White House more than anybody else in the last few years since Biden is in the White House.
But don't they have a plan? I mean, aren't they like just
of
utilizing this messed up plan?
The messed up plan is the Great Reset.
I know.
And the Great Reset is about sending the whole system to hell.
So you're telling me that the left is
new...
fighting their own thing that they put on us?
No, it's. I think that in Davos, it's not a question of left and right. It's a question also of CEOs.
Well, that would be nice.
No, I think that mainly it's not a question.
It's been such a left and right thing.
They are trying to reconnect with people. They know that this growing populist movement can't be ignored. At the same time, though, there is people who have openly criticized them. Also, the economy. I think that
maybe it's because we're so broke, and everybody's
and the
so
companies,
broke, and it went down like so fast.
And the alternative, this so-called green revolution, doesn't really work. The electric cars are a complete failure. They are really a complete failure. This whole thing of the electric cars with Biden is a failure. Check it.
President Joe Biden is now about to step up to the mic. He's getting ready to sign an executive order aiming for half of all new vehicles to be electric, fuel cell electric, or plug-in hybrid by the year 2030. It's part of the White House strategy to fight global warming.
When they make the first electric Corvette, I get to drive it. Right, Mary? You think I'm kidding? I'm not kidding. Mark.
No, you are. You in 2021, he was already confused. Check this out.
I just want to be very straightforward. A future of the automobile industry that is electric. It's electric, and there's no turning back. This is a big deal. And that's what our Build Back Better plan is all about. That's why today I'm signing an executive order setting out a target of 50% of all passenger vehicles sold by 2030 will be electric. But that's what we're going to do as we roll out.
EV drivers won't be able to drive as far as well if the temperature is 20 or below, which is the case here in Chicago. There are different estimates on how bad this can affect things. AAA says the performance...
This year for the electric cars, the beginning of 2024 has been the worst because it had demonstrated that the electric cars are not a feasible option when you have to do 6, 7, 8 hours queues in the cold. You have to maintain the 20% minimum charge, otherwise they end up you end up being told. It's just insane.
That's scary.
This decline is roughly 41%, which means what was once a 100-mile journey will only be 59 miles. Drivers here in Oak Brook at this Tesla supercharging station say they're frustrated.
I had to charge like multiple times every day the last couple days. I had to like wait for like 45 minutes for a charger, and then I pull in, it doesn't work, and then I pull out, and then someone else takes the next charger, and then I had to wait again. So it's been a little frustrating.
I was at 50% when I got here. Usually from 50 to like 80, 90% it take like 10, 15 minutes. It's taking an hour and 20 minutes.
It's just frozen, and so I'm getting it towed to the Tesla service center because that's my only option at this point.
Whoa, what a bunch of idiots. You deserve it. I'm sorry if I say that, but you deserve it. You deserve it. I mean, go woke, go broke, go electric, and definitely you go also broke and you waste a lot of time with something that is a bit of an utopia that doesn't have any consistency even with the science. I mean, you want to save the world, destroying the world. To produce an electric car, you have to really support the biggest damage to our ecosystem, because that's what they're doing, you know, chunks of Amazon forest or whatever to get these rare minerals. I think it's insane what they're doing with the electric cars, and needs to be stopped.
So they're chopping down trees to make...
No, it's not a question of chopping down trees. It's a question of chopping down parts of forest to then, if there is minerals, to extract those minerals. And this is done in various parts of the world.
So
with
destroy nature?
And not only that, often to have these rare minerals that are part of our mobile phones, of our EVs and all that, they have to use also young children that go in this mine and stuff and work in terrible conditions. I think really that it's terrible that we are in this situation. And for this reason also, I think that Elon Musk, it's a guy who, in a way, of course, is an asset for the conservative movement, but is also a very troubling one, because, yes, he has been criticizing and supporting Javier Milei's speech that now we're going to go and check out in Davos, and he's kind of like trying to build himself to be the arch enemy of Klaus Schwab. But this antagonism with a guy who is actually producing electric cars, I don't know if it's coherent, and we need to be a little bit more coherent and a bit more honest with ourselves. However, Javier Milei was and is an economist before he became president of Argentina just recently. He is a guy known for his extraordinary hairstyle. He is very much a Trumpian at heart. And he went to Davos to criticize their collectivism and their BS. Check this out. Javier Milei, of course, we will only be able to broadcast a few parts of his speech because it's a rather long one.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much. Today, I'm here to tell you that the Western world is in danger. And it is endangered because those who are supposed to have to defend the values of the West are co-opted by a vision of the world that inexorably leads to socialism. and thereby to poverty. Unfortunately, in recent decades, motivated by some well-meaning individuals willing to help others, and others motivated by the wish to belong to a privileged caste, the main leaders of the Western world have abandoned the model of freedom for different versions of what we call collectivism. We're here to tell you that collectivist experiments are never the solution to the
incredible thing is that Klaus Schwab, who introduced him, went in front of his audience, Klaus Schwab, the grandmaster of the Davos posse, praising collectivism. So he was doing exactly the opposite, criticizing their model, criticizing what is their model. So for the first time, they tried to include some of the populist voices that are rising around the world, the voices that I called the Great Reject here in Volume 7. So I must say that things are developing. I'm not saying it's a solution. I'm not saying that this will bring us some amazing changes in Davos, because these people are only working towards their ultimate goal, which is world domination through the use of AI by 2030, and of course with the help of China. But let's go through another passage of Millet's speech.
Neoclassicals is that the model they fell in love with does not map reality, so they put down their mistakes to supposed market failures rather than reviewing the premises of the model.
Now, what Millet is talking about is the fact that Argentina, in the last 100 years, because of embracing that kind of more socialist idea, has become, from one of the richest countries in the world, because Argentina was one of the richest, one of the poorest countries in the world, with an economy in 100 years they ruined everything, but it took only a few decades until they started to have the crisis that brought already to a very heavy crisis. I'm talking about 20 years ago, but more than 20 years ago, 25, 24 years ago. But now things are being transformed by Millet, who of course wants to test a new way for capitalism. In his speech, just to be synthetic, so you don't have to listen to the whole thing, he's of course praising capitalism rather than this new collectivism, socialism, let's share everything, and which basically in the end always ends up putting an elite in charge of the majority of people. The elite eats the lobster, has a great time eating caviar and other fancy foods, while we are supposed to eat the bugs. Yeah.
On the pretext of a supposed market failure, regulations are introduced which only create distortions in the price system, prevent economic calculus, and therefore also prevent saving, investment and growth. This problem lies mainly in the fact that not even supposedly libertarian economists understand what the market is, because if they did understand, it would quickly be seen that it's impossible for there to be something along the lines of market failures. The market is not a mere graph describing a curve of supply and demand. The market is a mechanism for social cooperation where you voluntarily exchange ownership rights. Therefore, based on this definition, talking about a market failure is an oxymoron.
So, very heavy criticism towards what Klaus Schwab and his posse is actually proposing there at Davos. And it was quite funny to see also Klaus Schwab introducing Millet. Oh, now, yeah, you made it and you are president of Argentina, yeah. Argentina, you know, is a favorite for the Nazis, because between Argentina and Chile, they all went there after the war. So it's like, it's a favorite. But this is what is happening here. There is been some internal opposition ventilated within Davos, and most of the people in Davos, the current CEOs of the various companies, realize that if they have to be honest with themselves, Trump will be the next president. So they have to prepare to deal with it. I mean, Trump was a guy that when he was president, he went there. He wasn't scared of confronting himself with the Davos elite. So let's see what happens. Of course, the Third World War will be, together with a possible disease X, another way of getting the whole elections, if not cancelled, maybe suspended. Who knows? What is happening in the last few hours in Iraq and in the Middle East in the last few days? You have to understand that there is bases that have been attacked and that we know nothing about. There is people killed, even in Kuwait, in Iraq, in bases, American bases. Now, today, they had to admit that something is happening. Ballistic missiles have been used in huge strike on U.S. base in Iraq, injuring several. I mean, there has been basically the base, American base, this is of course from Reuters, has been hit by ballistic missiles, but they also left the possibility that might have been struck by rockets. In any case, there have been multiple injuries. There has been people. I mean, the situation. It's basically, we are in a Third World War. We are already in a Third World War. So it's like they're trying to cover it up. But
I asked him that yesterday because I was watching the Italian news.
Yes.
And I was like, are we in World War III now? Because they were talking. Because when I watch the American news, I don't hear any of this. But then when I go on the Italian side, I hear all of it. And then I asked him, I said, what's going on?
No,
I mean,
the crazy thing is that if you want to get some news about the Third World War here, possibly you go to Alex Jones and Infowars. But when it comes to Europe, you just need to put on any channel like I do, and they're not, regarded as conspiracy channels. They're simply the mainstream news that is openly talking about what is developing in the Middle East in a more open way than here in the US. Here in the US, it seems like there is a mainstream news that
lies to us
and talks about rubbish, talks about things that are completely the weather, climate change. The weather is so cold, so climate change. Let's buy another electric vehicle, but the electric vehicle doesn't work. So what should we do? Rocket barrage. U.S. troops suffer traumatic brain injuries after Iraqi air base is hit by missiles from Iranian-backed militants. Several U.S. personnel are undergoing evaluation for traumatic brain injuries after multiple missiles and rockets. But this is not the only front. We know that, we have, of course, the whole Iraq, Syria, but then you have the Houthis, the new Red Sea front. Another thing that they haven't told you, it seems like nobody is talking about it here in America, but it's very important, is that the Houthi rebels that fortunately Biden has included once again into the terrorist list, I don't know, he took them away from the terrorist list for humanitarian purposes so he could send them more weapons so they could fight us. That's what he did. In any case, this crook who is in the White House and is playing with fire and doesn't know what he's doing is manipulated behind the scenes that a military industrial complex that, of course, now wants to also protect the ships that are passing through the Red Sea. But at the same time, what is happening here is that the Houthis have officially announced that all the Chinese and Russian ships will be able to pass the Red Sea, no problem. So this is heavy, guys, and I'm afraid that nobody's talking about it. I repeat, the Houthis have announced that all Chinese and Russian ships can tranquilly pass through that part.
So what does that mean exactly?
That 15%, almost 20% of our economy, even American economy, everything that we get on this table and everything that we order through Amazon, everything comes from that part of sea and is blocked. And once it's blocked, and the Americans don't seem to be able to protect the ships, I mean, how is this possible? The only way that basically Prostate General there with a finger in his ass, now he's out of the hospital, who has ordered the attacks while he was in hospital being operated for prostate, what is probably prostate cancer. Now, the situation is very clear. We have some incompetent people at the White House who have obviously sold our country. We see that in the last few weeks, there's a lot of discussion regarding the big Chinese, firms and billionaires buying more and more land in the US, and nobody's opposing it. This is also something
that's really disturbing.
That is really disturbing. But I repeat, now Russia and China, who have already created a lot of problems, Russia in particular, because from the whole war with Ukraine has basically stopped the export, or at least make it very difficult for one of the larger reservoirs of grain in the world, and then also pesticides that came from there. You remember all that problem with the pesticides. And now we have another front, the Red Sea, in which China and Russia will be able to transport. So we're back to the pirate days here, because nobody's safe anymore.
And what about those Navy SEALs?
Yes, there is problems. Apparently, also 2 Navy SEALs have disappeared. I mean, it's crazy.
Is it pirates that got them?
I mean, the pirates are, of course, backed by Iran. Let's not forget that all this is backed by Iran. The actual weapons that the Houthis are using are Russian. So this is another proxy war. This is a third world war already in motion. And now we have the confirmation today that this third world war will probably go to the next stage, when a senior NATO official says there will be a hot war with Russia. Between NATO and Russia.
So no more Cold War, guys.
So it's not going to be a Cold War. The Admiral Rob Bauer, chairman of NATO's military committee, told reporters, following a meeting of NATO defense chiefs in Brussels, the governments need to start putting preparations in place, and that civilians will need to be mobilized on a large scale.
What?
Yes, and not only that, we had in the past few weeks what Sweden has been preparing. Sweden, who has just joined NATO, has in 300 years didn't have a war, because Sweden was capable of not joining the Second World War, and the Nazis even had to pay the train ticket to invade Norway. That was a unique thing, that because Sweden has always been at the center of the most powerful Masonic lobby in Northern Europe, at the head of the Swedish Rite. But the chairman of the military committee, Admiral Rob Bauer, and what he said is a very interesting.
The realization that not everything is plannable, not everything is going to be hunky-dory in the next 20 years.
Okay.
I'm not saying it is going wrong tomorrow, but we have to realize it's not a given that we are in peace. And that's why we have the plans. That's why we are preparing for a conflict with Russia and the terror groups, if it comes to it, if they attack us. We're not seeking any conflict.
Okay, so here we have somebody who said we're not seeing any conflict, but in the end, NATO was the one that instigated, unfortunately, this conflict from 2014 with a coup d'etat, and later on what happened in Donbass region, and ultimately forcing basically Vladimir Putin to take action because of what he perceived as a threat, disrespecting what were the deals that were done previously, even after the end of the Soviet Union by the West and Russia, that basically said, okay, you can pick up countries like Poland and all the others, Hungary and all that, but in the end, Romania, that used to be under the sphere of control of the Soviet Union, because they didn't have that power anymore to keep them under their control. But Ukraine was always an in-between land. The truth about Ukraine is actually written in my book, Volume 9, how they artificially created the state of Ukraine that didn't exist, a place called Borderland, basically. So I would suggest Volume 9 to understand more about how the Ukrainian identity was created by various secret societies. And now we have Zelensky, who is the CEO of Lost Causes. in Davos selling something that nobody wants to buy, but everybody's forced to buy.
Why?
Because
why do they like him so much?
No, because they know that by continuing with this whole farce, they will push people towards the Great Reset. No oil, no gas. I mean, the way that Russia has was forced. They even bombed the pipeline that was in the middle of the sea, pipeline that went to Germany. The situation is, of course, deteriorating very fast in this third world scenario. And at the same time, we have those CEOs who don't think about the real problems of the world. The problems of the world for them is inclusivity, equity, dancing in drag. The CEO of United Airlines is present in this video, arriving with a motorcycle and then dancing around. Here he is. Now you're going to see the CEO, I repeat, of United Airlines.
Oh my gosh.
Here he is.
What a rock star, yo.
No, well, he's a drag queen. And now he's going to dance with his pals.
Oh my gosh.
No, I mean, this guy seems to like these kind of things. I mean, this is the CEO of United Airlines, quite an important company, but check him out in front here of this stage. Here is still him. Check this. Check this. I think that is obvious that this is a very sick world. The fact that now we have airplane companies that have more and more accidents in the air. They basically go on fire in mid-air. They have all kinds of problems. They lose parts. For him, the main thing, the guy who you're seeing here in front of all the others, the CEO of United Airlines, is really into promoting drag. And me and Christy had a direct experience with a drag queen in an airport. Here, go.
So we were leaving. We were in London, and I think we were leaving with our bags to go, just take our bags out. And a transvestite stopped him and got him.
It wasn't hostess though.
It was
from a
it was
company.
She was tall. She was taller than me, and I'm 5'11". She's taller than him, and he's 6'1".
Okay.
So she was tall, and she was intimidating, and she got in his face. And what did you do anyway? I forgot.
I don't know. I mean,
she said, "You better do this and that, or else."
She acted like a complete Nazi in the middle of what was it? Heathrow Airport.
Yeah.
I was outraged by this whole thing, and that is your typical. If that's your typical drag queen in working for an airplane company, it's not a good sign. I don't know. Then you have pilots now in drag and all that. CEO of United Airlines, like Bruce Codish says here in the chat, definitely appears to be mentally ill, but that's the problem.
Like everybody, though.
A lot of people are mentally ill these days. I mean, watch him. He's just like, huh?
No, but they just act like this, and they think it's normal.
It's normal.
It's not.
Definitely not. It's definitely not.
I don't think men should wear dresses. I really don't. I don't think men should wear makeup. I think it's okay for women to wear makeup, and they can wear as much as they want whenever they want. But men, I don't think they should wear makeup. So
before Bill Gates arrived in Davos to encourage everybody to embrace, of course, mRNA vaccine, all that bullshit. He went to Italy to meet the Italian president, who is a mafioso. There he is.
Hi.
Great to meet you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sarà un grande piacere.
Goodbye.
Thanks so much. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bill Gates, this guy, of course, is one of the major players in Davos, and he is, of course, everybody seems to be getting closer to Italy lately. We have Elon Musk, who is often there. We had Jeff Bezos, who was eating a pizza the other day in Milan, and Bill Gates. There is a lot of interest towards Italy, mainly because Italy is the port of entry for this invasion of Europe that they are sponsoring and they are permitting. And even Meloni's government is not stopping the invasion.
You said it, though.
People believed in Giorgia Meloni. I said it from the beginning when they invited me in info. I said, you are believing in fairy tales. Giorgia Meloni is, it's like a rhino. It's just like a Nikki Haley. Talking about Nikki Haley, she is definitely a rhino and the worst kind of person.
What do you think about Vivek?
I said there is two possibilities here for the vice presidency. One is Vivek Ramaswamy and the other one is Tucker Carlson. But let me show you what Trump has said about the non-possibility for Nikki Haley. He completely rejected, of course, Nikki Haley because Nikki Haley has said things that are simply too much. I mean, you can participate into a primary, but Trump said, he said basically the record straight on Nikki Haley. So let's check this out.
Presidential timber. Now, when I say that, that probably means that she's not going to be chosen as the vice president. You know, you can go. No, you can go and you can say certain things, you know, I don't like them and this. But when you say certain things, it sort of takes them out of play, right? I can't say she's not of the timber to be a vice, and then say, ladies and gentlemen, I'm proud to announce that I've picked. Do you understand? But that's the way it is, okay? Tell it like it is. Tell it like it is.
Tell it as it is. We have a lot of people who are Trump haters, and we have a lot of people who have been disappointed by Trump.
Why don't you just change the channel?
No, but I mean, I understand the fact that Trump has disappointed us when it came to that whole thing with the vaccines. A lot of people were disappointed. But he himself was actually brought for a ride by all those people. They forced him and they kind of directed him to do things that he shouldn't have done. Now, let's forget all that. Trump is the only president who the system is proving again and again to hate, sending the system in a crisis. I'm not saying he is perfect, but he is the person that we need today. And that's why we're going to consult the Oracle of Trump today. Here we go.
Tomorrow they will say, Donald Trump rants and raves at the press. I'm not ranting and raving. I'm just telling you, you dishonest people.
Dishonest, completely dishonest. The press has always been, unfortunately, dishonest.
No, I mean, there's no other choice. So
there's no other choice, guys.
And he already, I mean, like he was president and we had first come here in 2019 and we were driving around the country because we could afford it. You can't afford to drive around the country anymore. And so we haven't gone anywhere ever since Biden has become president. But when Trump was president, everything seemed to be so much better. Everything is like 3 times the price. I mean, I buy flour and it started at $30 and then it went slowly went up. I watched it go and now it's at 70 for the flour that I buy.
The most crazy thing happened the other day. I went into Trader Joe to buy some olive oil I like from Italy. It was an olive oil that it was surprisingly sold for a good price until a month ago at $5.99. Now, suddenly, it was at $10.99. So I go to the cashier and I say, this olive oil is now $5 more. I mean, it's like an increase of 50%.
Yeah.
And he said,
like overnight.
The problem has been the fires in Italy. I said, I come from Italy. There is no fires. It's a bunch of crooks. And either it's you who are stealing and putting the money in your pocket, or either it's the Italians here. I said, but somebody is, because this olive oil was $5.99, now it's $10.99. The fires in Italy. I mean, guys, when I heard that, I just laughed in his face. I'm sorry, because
You can. You have the accent.
by the way, the manager was a fan of mine,
Yeah.
Joe. So that's a good point. But I mean, this.
A Trader Joe's.
In any case, let's move further with more news. Don Jr. speculates on Trump's VIP picks and says Tucker Carlson is a realistic possibility.
Running with Ron DeSantis. I asked him that question over the summer, and he didn't rule it out. Could you see Ron DeSantis?
How do you? It's hard. You know, people do that. Like, you know, I would do whatever I could to make sure it wasn't Nikki Haley. But you know, but like a Ron DeSantis, could I see? You're never going to rule out someone that is, you know, a leading contender. It doesn't mean that's who you go with. I could see other people that would be great. I'd love to see, you know, a J.D. Vance. I'd love to see a Tucker Carlson. I'd love to see, you know, people who are just principally, you know, in alignment as well as like aggressive. You actually need a fighter. The Republicans in Washington, D.C. are weak. You can have the House, the Senate, and they'll still roll over. It doesn't
Don,
matter.
is your dad serious about Tucker Carlson? Are those rumors serious?
I would imagine, you know, listen, that's clearly, it would be on the table, right? I mean, they're very friendly. I think they agree on virtually all of these things. They certainly agree on stopping the never-ending wars. And so, you know, I would love to see that happen. And, you know, that would certainly be a contender.
Ben Carson, those rumors legit?
Ben's great. I mean, what a great American, someone who was just steadfast and loyal throughout all of the insanity of the last years. You know, I'd love to see that. And, you know, Ben's almost too nice for politics. That may be the only problem. Can you withstand the insanity that's in there? But I'd love to see a Ben Carson in there.
That might be a good thing. But no way Nikki Haley.
Well, that's my opinion. I don't make these decisions, but I don't think that's currently really on the table.
I think that Trump then made it very clear that Nikki Haley is out. I think Nikki Haley's future will be like Chris Christie, typical former governor that ends up being a commentator on ABC or CNN. I mean, recently I even saw Mike Pence being a commentator on CNN. I mean, just I don't know, man. I mean, Mike Pence. I think that anybody would be better than Mike Pence, especially the way he behaved at the end of his vice presidency.
The Americans, people might just trust Tucker more.
But I think that, like somebody has pointed out here in our chat live, and I want to thank all the people who are, of course, bringing forward the discussions here on the chats from the various channels. Tucker Carlson is a very important voice that needs to be kept within the frame of journalism before the frame of politics. I think that that is possible, but it's still something.
We'll have you.
Well, I mean, like you know,
you're not in the mainstream.
I'm not.
You're on the fringe.
I'm very fringe. I'm very fringe, especially since these days. The voice of reason at times, because I try to be also a voice of reason, especially before the 6th of January 2021.
In so many situations, not just on this show, he is the voice of reason. In just situations when he goes out and meets with crazy people, he is the voice of reason. Things happen, you know, we're in a crazy state. And so things happen all the time, but, you know, you don't react and you keep your cool. And he's one guy that always keeps his cool. And I'm so proud of you. No. I really am.
Well,
I'm just so proud of you.
Well, I try.
And God's proud of you too.
So I hope that in the future, of course, I will be able to give you the good news that I am.
Oh, you will,
Amore.
It's
citizen.
Projecting when you do that.
No, I'm not projecting. I'm just
you just say, I don't hope I will. He's going to be American very shortly. So.
Probably I'm going to have to wait for Trump to be in the White House, but I don't know.
No, you won't.
In any case, during the World Economic Forum, another important figure who has even been deemed by some the goddess of the WEF is Ursula von der Leyen, head of the European Union. She is basically, very evil woman, kind of stepped in after Angela Merkel stepped out of the scene. almost in substitution. You need a strong German woman, yeah, and
Ich bin German.
Yes,
Ich bin Deutsch.
yes, very Deutsch, very German, and he is basically Ursula von der Leyen, the president of the European Commission, and she went to the World Economic Forum to actually deliver a speech. So, I mean, Europe is so corrupt that they even have the head, basically, of the EU giving a speech there, and I find this whole thing totally outrageous. But that's what happened. Europe is a lost cause, guys. I mean, if you have a European passport of sorts, you should find yourself a solution, because if there is a new disease X, or there is another increase in the war, fiat, especially in Ukraine, I mean, Europe is going to have major problems. That's for sure. And we have seen how Europe is, like somebody's pointed out here in the chat, on a suicide march. At the same time, we have seen in the last week thousands, even hundreds of thousands, if not millions of German tractors coming into Berlin, occupying Berlin, because they are fed up with all these rules and regulations given by the EU, which are starting to affect also the German economy. And so the Germans are kind of doing their forconi, let's say. They're doing their pitchfork revolution. They went into Berlin this week. And at the same time, though, we see that parties like that have ruled for decades, like the Christian Democrats that Angela Merkel used to lead, and now we have other leaders that, like Scholz, who is starting to see the rise of Alternative for Deutschland, the first right-wing party to enter parliament after the Second World War, that is now risking to become the first party in Germany. And when that happens, it's almost like your right hand goes up, because you remember what happened the last time. I mean, Germany is on a path to bring back the old school Nazism, which is National Socialism. I mean, it's pretty clear where all this is going. The fact that they continue to support with their panzers and with their money and everything the war in Ukraine, which is basically a Nazi war. It is a war conducted by Nazis. Zelensky is the head of a bunch of Nazis. You can criticize Vladimir Putin for many things, but on this point, he's absolutely honest. He, and of course, Lavrov, his foreign minister, have always said they're fighting a war against Nazis. They are Nazis. They are the heirs to Nazism. And this is something also that has to do with the weakness of the Jewish community in present-day Ukraine. Let's remember that Sabbatean Frankism was, Sabbatians were born in Turkey, but Frankism, which is the follow-up, for those who know the story of the Sabbatean Frankist heretical movement, Jacob Frank was basically born in present-day Ukraine. You can know more about it here in Volume 9. And just like Madame Blavatsky, whose mentor was Max Theon, another Sabbatean Frankist. The Sabbatean Frankist, very strong. Yes, she was born in Dnipro, Ukraine, Madame Blavatsky. The Sabbatean Frankists have a very strong movement, these heretics from that have influenced in the worst way possible Judaism. Now, another thing that I want to clear up, though, today, before the end of the show, is, of course, what has happened with these tunnels under the headquarters of the Chabad Lubavitch headquarters in New York. There's been a lot of talk about it. So what I did, I went to a dear friend of mine who knows the Chabad organization very well, and I asked him some delucidation. I said, what are they doing? Now, I want to show you this video. This is a rather new video about these tunnels under the Chabad headquarters. So you have an idea, because it is pretty impressive.
from a couple days ago when we explored tunnels underneath of an abandoned synagogue in New York. What I didn't show you is everything inside of the synagogue. They had a daycare inside of the basement. A room full of TVs and recording equipment. This very scary looking room. A massive auditorium. And a cafeteria. A Star of David on the ceiling.
Now, these tunnels created a big problem because they were apparently dug by these young members of the Chabad, of the UFFICIALE community. And so there was then a big tension that brought to several arrests. I think 9 people were arrested. In any case, there was a squabble between these younger people who are messianic, who believe that the Messiah is here. And this is the article that I was pointed out. And it seems to be an article that, because there is a lot of speculations, and there is, of course, this favors anti-Semitism. It's obvious, no? This whole thing. I mean, what are the Jews doing in their tunnels and all that? It becomes a very easy way to attack after the Jewish community. So we wanted to bring some clarity today. So it says, so why were those yeshiva students digging a tunnel at Chabad headquarters? The Fracas reveals deep rifts in the UFFICIALE community between officials and those who see the Bebe as the Messiah. Okay, please read this.
From where to start?
Yes.
A near riot and 9 arrests at
Chabad UFFICIALE
headquarters are bringing attention to deep rifts between Chabad officials and those who openly believe their late Rabbi is the Messiah. The fracas Monday at 770 East Parkway in the Crown Heights section of Brooklyn began when a cement truck arrived to fill in a tunnel dug by a group of Messianic Yeshiva students who believe in the imminent return of the movement's late leader, Rabbi Mendel Schneerson. The passageway was apparently used to dump debris from an unauthorized expansion of the synagogue onto an unused property next door. Once they realized the tunnel was being filled in, the black-hatted young men tore down the wooden panels, exposing the tunnel. The Associated Press reported Tuesday that 9 people between the ages of 19 and 22 were arrested, with another 3 charged with disorderly conduct. Chabad spokesperson Rabbi Mati Seligson said that the building was closed pending a structural safety review. Seligson described the vandals as extremist students who broke through the walls from the synagogue at Chabad headquarters to create unauthorized access to adjacent properties. Selvin Hernandez, the owner of the cement truck that pulled up to the site, said a dozen of the young men surrounded it and took parts off of it, including a clamp. His workers at Eagle Pumping Corp are scared, he said, and don't want to go over there no more. The group of Messianics, known by the Yiddish term, how do you say that? Have congregated in the synagogue in the building's basement for years. Many are from Israel, but they are not permitted upstairs where the organization's officials' offices are located.
So here are the theories on why they dug. Precisely why they began to dig the passageway is unclear, even to the people who have written this article for Forward, which is a Jewish independent non-profit publication. But one member of the community, Mendel G., who for fear of retribution agreed to speak only in his full last name, if his full last name will not be used, said the tunnel diggers were trying to bring to fruition an expansion of the synagogue that Schneerson himself had endorsed. He noted that the Rebbe, as Schneerson is known, had placed his ceremonial, which Rebbe, contrary to Rabbi, is even more such, is like super teacher, in the tradition. And basically, space and financial strain, regulatory issue, and fighting following Shannon's in 1994 death stalled the project. So this is basically what they say is behind it. We of course understand that in fact there were some tweets here that you can read.
Also, yes, the students involved were Messianic, but that doesn't mean that they had Messianic aims. There were certainly others in the building who approved of what they did when they learned about it, and evidently far more who disapprove.
This is basically the digital reconstruction of the passage in question that then opened up, and then you can see where the tunnel entrance is from behind inside. And this, of course, is to give you a brief idea with this article of what at least seems to be the official explanation, but it's probably more clear than other explanations that were given up until now. Of course, then we have the conspiracy theorists. The conspiracy theorists who never give up anti-Semitism, who are talking about all kinds of sacrifices going on in those tunnels, blood being sucked, and all kinds of things. Now, I think that we need to focus on the reality of this whole story rather than these mad conspiracy theories that seem to always affect the Jewish community and inevitably are used by the Muslims and other factions that are, especially these days, with what is going on in Gaza, because we know it's a tragedy what's going on in Gaza. Thousands of people have died until now, but let's never forget how this whole thing started, and probably it was also permitted. There is definitely a Sabbatean Frankist conspiracy within the Jewish government at the moment, but definitely Netanyahu doesn't want to have two states, meaning the birth of a Palestinian state, simply because another Arab states, with all the Arab states they already have surrounding them, is not probably for them a good idea. Security-wise, we're talking about also a very small country, let's not forget that. And however, Gaza is fueled with hate, fueled with terrorists from a very young age. That's why you have a lot of young people dying. Let's not forget that. But also we have people dying, soldiers, Jewish soldiers, hit by friendly fire. Almost 20 of them hit by friendly fire. It means that they are a bunch of idiots giving the orders. So this is also,
and those hostages too.
And then we have the hostages that are constantly, it's heartbreaking to see them alive. Then they kill them. Then we have others we don't even know if they're alive or not. And all this, of course, is heartbreaking for all their families. And in this ongoing, situation struggle, which is expanding from Israel and gradually is setting on fire the whole of the Middle East. But it's, like we explained earlier, part of this Third World War, which is, of course, expanding on various fronts. And we hope that Trump will be able to in some way
he's got such a big mess to clean up.
Yes, definitely a very, very big
he's
mess.
He's never going to sleep.
We have already those who are building some end-of-the-world bunkers in all this. And for the first time, there is actually an affordable one for $2 million. Now, affordable, of course, I can't afford it. But if there is a group of people who want to put some money together, this bunker, I think 35 minutes from Kansas City, it's definitely a very interesting option. And it is a quite big one. 2 million.
Still in Missouri, though.
It is.
Just kidding.
No, I think that actually, I've been in Missouri, I've been to Kansas City. I find it actually quite a nice city. But the check out this.
I just had a bad impression of St. Louis when I went through it, like in the 90s. It was very bad. Like, yeah, but I'm sure it's different now. Maybe it's not. Who knows? I haven't been back.
Yeah, I've been back for a while, so you don't know. trying to find here if I manage. I seem to have some problem. I had the video of this.
I don't like my own state I'm living in right now either, and I don't really like most of the states I lived in.
Yeah.
Democrat states.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Here is the bunker you can purchase.
Except for New York. I always love New York. I don't care.
In beautiful Polo, Missouri. Here we go, guys. $2 million.
I love New York.
Let's put the money together. No, music. Otherwise they're gonna plug us for copyright issue. This is the bank. I mean, $2 million. Look what you get, though. I mean, look.
I don't want to look at this bunker.
No. I think it's very.
I'm going to be up with the poor people and just
but
this is
listen. Most bankers are on sale for over 20 million.
I just feel like God
watch
will
how
protect.
big it is.
I don't need a bunker. God will protect me.
Well, we need a bunker. This is a very good bunker.
I don't need a bunker.
I think that for $2 million, for $2 million, you're getting.
I got the armor of God around me. I don't need a bunker.
Okay. But I think that this kind of bunker, affordable bunker, $2 million is an affordable price. You put together 20 people with 100,000. I mean, here we're talking about 10,000 square meters. It's very big. It's very big.
I don't care.
I mean, I think that it is.
I guess you're going to be going and living in a bunker, and I'll be just carrying the armor of God around me.
Well, I'm not saying that you can't carry the armor of God. I'm just saying that it is definitely a nice place for this kind of price.
Well, we don't have $2 million.
No,
we barely get donations for this show.
Yeah,
whatever.
I know. But I just wanted to, of course, bring you. Yeah, we got the microphone for a second, so switched off. But I think that it is not a bad idea to be ready.
Well, maybe I have to warm up to it because I had to warm up to Donald Trump, because when he first approached me with Donald Trump, I laughed.
When I approached,
yeah, because like way back in, when was that, 2007, you started talking about Donald Trump, and I laughed because I'm from New York. And in New York, we all had to hear about Donald in the tabloids all through the 80s. And he had like this rapport in New York. And so, I mean, I didn't have any feelings for him. I just didn't see him as president, you know? And then when you said that, I was like, no way. Donald Trump is never going to be president. And then he said he's a businessman and he will take care of this country like a business. And that's what this country needs. And so, you know, he was right. And so now I'm a firm supporter. I didn't really like what was going on during the pandemic, and I won't talk about it. But yeah, just that stuff kind of threw me off. But then, you know, I was thrown off, but then I got back on, and I was like, yeah, he's, you know, he really loves America, and you can see that. So I mean, there's hardly anybody that really in the government, in the political area, that really loves America, and you can see that he really loves
absolutely
America, and he's dedicated.
With the armor of God, we can. I mean, we're not going to probably have a bunker.
No, we're not.
We're not going to have a bunker, but
we don't care.
And we don't. We don't care. We care though about you, and we suggest that you purchase these books because. Especially in volume 7, but also in volume 9, there is suggestions on how to proceed and prepare without purchasing a bunker necessarily, but in alternative situations.
Oh, we're definitely prepared. We are prepared. We don't sit here just with that. I mean, we are prepared too.
Yes. Absolutely. We have to be prepared, at least to a certain extent.
We're not going to be like, leave the world behind. You know, you're like, I don't even look at I put down my phone and I don't look at it anymore. I don't go on social media anymore. I gave it all up finally. So 2024, I have a clean slate, no social media. I'm just starting. So.
In the meantime, just to close down with this image of one of the first arrests made by Governor Abbott's agents in Texas, which is starting to, you know, he's ordering his own to arrest these illegal immigrants which are flooding the country. And they are creating, of course, a nightmare for our system. And like I said at the beginning of the show, I'm trying to do it the legal way. But so many of these people are not. And it's becoming really a big injustice for people like
and
me,
even
especially.
for immigrants that have come here illegally, because Americans we've noticed are being like against immigrants now in general. And so like if you have an accent, you're not American, and it's just fucked up.
That is a little bit weird because especially if you are in California, having somebody who insults you, say you're not even American because of your accent, you can't even speak English.
This is a melting pot. We're all from different places.
You see the fakeness really of these Democrats here, and I had it on me, this experience. So, I mean,
it's just really, it's disgraceful.
Yeah.
And I'm ashamed of that person.
But what can you do? Today's show, of course, was dedicated to Davos Satanic Occult Agenda. And for this reason, I will also suggest that you get Volume 7 in particular, because here you have also the Pact of the Catacombs that has laid out that connection between the Vatican and Klaus Schwab, which you will know all about if you have read Volume 7, because there is a connection. That's why we opened up with the blessing of Pope Francis to Davos, but it's nothing new, because the mentor of Pope Francis was actually the mentor of Klaus Schwab. He was known as the Red Bishop, Bishop Camara from South America. So I want to thank all those people who have followed us today. Rambo wants to join us. Thanks to all. Let's thank the sponsors.
Okay, so Bruce Kodish, Malgorizada, and Paul Tenoso, and Andrea Martin. Thank you very much.
For our sponsors, we offer an applause, and it's a sincere applause. So here we go with the applause.
Thank you.
Here we are with Rambo.
I started giving him B Populist, and he is being so good. He's running around and he's got really bright eyes.
Hey, are you doing good? You hungry?
He has to have all kinds of holistic things.
Okay. I hope you enjoyed the show today, guys. We see you next week. And of course, we cannot terminate the show without a great dance. Here. It's coming. It's coming. There's more dance? Why doesn't more dance?
He emancipated himself.
Why is...
Here comes the devil. Oh, here comes the devil. Oh, here comes the devil.
Oh, the devil with the devil, says I.
Shh. Look out for the devil. Look out for the devil. Look out for the devil.
Oh, the devil with the devil, says I. You're so afraid of old man Satan. Now, why don't you stop your hesitating? You're gonna be a long time dead, so the devil with the devil, says I. You're always giving me the dickens, telling me that life's no easy pickings. But just as long as I have fun, why, the devil with the devil, says I. You can have your social teas and bingo for your fun.
Hi, everyone.
But the things I like
I hope
to
you
do
enjoyed the real
stop
Zagami show. Keep on supporting us.
Now, even if you
books,
make me stronger,
of course, we have also GoFundMe and Cash App
So even
donations. And we will be back next Saturday with more news.
Oh, the devil with the devil, says I.
And the occasional exploring the Illuminati is coming up, and there's a special one I'm preparing. Yeah.